Fallen, a Star Wars story by George Deihl. Prologue. Close up, a young woman's eye in a dead stare. A tear falls. The eye, without a blink, seems to go from sorrow to anger. Fade to black. Interior dark room. In shadow, Qui Gon Jinn, Jedi Knight aged around 30, sits at a table and tosses a holocron disc onto it. In the blue static of the holocron recording, a younger man appears. Bixel Twine, aged almost 30.
Qui Gon. I feel like I'm stealing away in the night. Like a coward.
You're not.
And now, I'd imagine you're assuring me that I am not.
Qui Gon laughs.
I have decided to leave the Order. There is no need for you to appeal the Jedi Council's decision. It's not worth it. I found a deeper connection to the Force through my love for Vuchtomi. Did you know that I'd fall for a beautiful Twi'lek? But it's more than that, Qui-Gon. I believe the Jedi are becoming corrupted by dogma. I'm afraid for the younglings who have such a strong connection to the Force. The rigidity of their training can backfire, making them more susceptible to the dark side. They learn power and truth, but not intent, which can be stronger than truth.
Bixel shakes his head, scoffs at himself.
There I go. Off into the stars, my thoughts spinning with the Force.
As you
I
are
am
so wont to do.
I will always be proud to have fought alongside Obi-Wan and you on Mandalore. Your Padawan is sure to become the noblest of Jedis in your care. May the Force be with you, my friend.
The holocron goes dark. Blackout. Exterior, space. A Delta 7B Aethersprite class crashes from hyperspace with a slap. It detaches from the Siluri 31 hyperspace ring and flies toward the planet Grelion, a lush, fertile planet. Exterior, Grelion's surface. Grelion is a farm planet. Endless, tall, grassy fields resembling green wheat stretch into the marshland of a nearby lake. A young girl's beautiful head pops up from the tall grass, half humanoid, half Twi'lek. Gane, aged about 17. A tarnished jewel hangs at her forehead between her short lekku. She's dressed in high boots and heavy gloves for farm work in the humid atmosphere. Slogging in the muck, Gane suddenly leaps back in fright.
Ew!
A large glime worm bursts from the mud toward her face. In a flash, a hand snags the worm out of the air. Reveal. An older-looking Bixel Twine, now aged in his late 40s, holds the worm aloft by its tail.
A glimworm! This little monster bodes a good harvest.
It could have killed me.
That it could.
Kill it!
Why, Gane? No. All things deserve to live. It was probably just protecting its offspring.
It could have killed your offspring.
And then who would I pick up after? Day in and day out.
Bixel laughs and flings the worm back into the marshy grasses. A sudden boom rattles the sky above as the Delta 7B Aethersprite streaks overhead.
Is that a
It is. Delta 7B Aethersprite.
Jedi?
Perhaps. Easy, my sweet love. Jedi are kind.
She exhales a worried sigh.
You are so much like your mama.
Is that so bad?
Never. She was a worrier too. She worried about the power the Jedi wield. But she loved me more than anything, and I her.
Even more than the Force?
My love for your mama was strengthened by the Force.
She looks back at the ship's trajectory.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
What have I told you about worrying?
To be at peace. That if you are one with the Force is one with you.
I'll clean up here. Go. Prepare for our guest. The Jedi Code dictates he'll come in peace. We will welcome him so.
Yes, Papa.
She turns to go.
And remember to wash up thoroughly. Even a small amount of raw spice from the soy will have our off-worlder in the refresher for the entire visit.
I will.
She turns again to go.
Qui Gon?
The young girl turns to her father, impatient.
What?
I love you.
I know.
Swipe. Exterior, homestead. Bixel approaches his dome-shaped dwelling. Outside, a young Jedi, Jack Pale, early 20s, waits.
Are you General Ola Jondertwine?
Bixel extends his hand. The Jedi does not take it. Instead, he bows. Bixel returns the bow.
Ha! That is a name I have not heard since probably before you were born.
I've been sent by the Jedi Council to locate him. Are you he?
I am,
A tense moment passes between them.
but I am called Bixel now.
I am Jack Pale, Jedi Knight.
Bixel smiles.
A newly anointed one as well. Your locks are still singed from the lightsaber that removed your braid.
Bixel laughs. Jack Pale doesn't. He smooths the back of the right side of his head where the braid once hung.
I've come to investigate a grave matter.
Bixel gestures to the front door of the dwelling.
Then, by all means.
They walk toward the door.
How is my old friend, Qui Gon Jinn?
Dead? The Sith has returned.
Jack Pale enters the dwelling. Bixel is left alone, stunned. Cut to interior homestead. Things belonging to a young woman are strewn around the well-lived-in abode. The home is filled with odd knickknacks and antique lighting fixtures. A suit of Jedi armor collects dust in a corner.
Not long ago I felt Qui-Gon. Like a whisper within the Force. Just an impression. I didn't meditate on it. My relationship with the Force is quite different now.
I am aware of the circumstances of your relationship with the Force, Master Twine.
Jack Pale's eye falls upon a blaster and long rifle mounted near the door.
We've had problems with marauders lately. Small local groups vying for the attention of the Hutts.
I'm sure. I will make note of it in my report to the Council.
Bixel shrugs and nods. Gane enters.
This is Qui-Gon, my daughter, named in honor of my old friend.
Gane guardedly nods a greeting to the Jedi. Cut to interior homestead later. Bixel, Gane, and their guest sit around the table. Bixel laughs, reminiscing.
And Obi-Wan could barely look in Duchess Satine's path without stumbling over his robes. And now, he's a knight with a Padawan.
Yes. Will it just be the three of us?
Bixel is suddenly brought back to the present. Gane tenses and stares at her lap.
It will.
I was given to understand you left the Order to...
My mother has died.
Somewhat recently.
He pets Gane's temple soothingly. She lets him for a moment, then subtly moves her head from his reach.
She became tremendously ill. We did everything we could to save her.
Everything?
The Jedi war with the Trade Federation prevented us from getting transportation into the Inner Rim to get her adequate
that is a slanted
care.
way of looking at it. We don't know that would have helped.
We don't know that it wouldn't have either.
Jack Pale watches carefully.
Regardless, we did everything within our power to save her.
Not everything.
Bixel side-eyes her. He begins to eat. No one else does.
Eat, please.
For a moment, they eat in silence.
What investigation has brought you to our small corner of the galaxy?
Interesting that you bring it up now.
Bixel raises an eyebrow.
There's been a disturbance in the Force here on this planet. Anger, strength, an unfettered connection to the Force. The Council has sent me to discover the source.
I've felt nothing.
Perhaps your judgment has been clouded.
That's true. It has.
How so?
I concerned myself with my crops and my daughter, no longer with matters of the galaxy. But I'll give whatever help I can to the Council.
I see.
Tomorrow at dawn, we can head into more populated areas. I'll show you around. Perhaps the Force will guide you in the right direction.
Can I come?
You're offering to help?
Of course. We'll see.
Jack Pale stabs at his food, raising a bite with his fork. He points the fork at Bixel, waving it casually at his host.
It must have been devastating, losing someone you held even above the Jedi Code.
Gane bristles. Bixel shrugs.
I found the Force shine brighter inside me through the prism of love.
The Force is peace, and peace comes through discipline.
Beat.
There is a legend of Sith using the Force to bring loved ones back from the dead.
Fiction.
Have you ever tried?
Are you accusing my father of being Sith?
No, Qui. There are no Sith on this planet. No matter how far I strayed from the Order, Sith would not go unnoticed.
How far is the leap from Grey to Dark Jedi to Sith?
Since I was a youngling, I kept peace throughout the galaxy. Master Yoda, Mace Windu, and especially Qui Gon Jinn were my friends. I shed blood with them against Death Watch.
Oh, I know who you are.
And you know why I left.
You were banished.
The air hangs heavy in the room.
Perhaps from a certain point of view. Regardless, I vowed never to use the Force again.
A beat. From beneath his robes, Jack Pale removes his lightsaber and sets it on the table, then casually begins to eat again.
I think the resurrection of the Sith is a direct result of the lack of discipline within the Order.
Maybe it's the rigidity.
When we don these robes, we are the light. We defend the righteous and become heroes.
Heroes are those with integrity of character.
Do those with integrity of character turn their backs on oaths they have taken?
Qui Gon throws down her utensils, folds her arms, and sets her steely gaze coldly on Jack Pale.
The code is a mantra, not an oath. And yes, they do. When the Force binds their heart to another, to thine own self be true. That's what the Force asks of us.
Don't lecture me on the Force.
My father is a better man than some jackboot Jedi enforcing their rules throughout the galaxy?
Without Jedi enforcement, Naboo would be a crippled husk of a planet. Grellion, too.
Bixel interrupts the squabble.
Qui, put away your dishes. Jedi, I will help you find the Force-sensitive being on this planet.
Qui Gon abruptly stands at the table, but does not remove her dishes. The utensils on the table begin to shake.
You still think I'm here for your help?
Aren't you?
I think you let your feelings get the better of you. You used the Force for your own selfish gains. You turned your back on the natural order of things to bring your loved ones back to life. You're more than a renegade. You're an abomination. You are a...
Bixel slams his hand onto the table, silencing him. The utensils on the table begin to float. Jack Pale and Bixel stare each other down, each waiting for the utensils to drop. Suddenly, the realization hits them. Qui Gon stands, fists clenched at her sides, eyes closed. A bowl rises and is force flung at Jack Pale. He dodges it. In a flash, he's out of the chair, lightsaber ignited in his hand. The blaster by the door flies from its holster and into Qui Gon's hand. Qui Gon takes aim at Jack Pale.
No!
Jack Pale twitches into a fighting stance, his saber held high at the ready. Then he lunges. The saber thrusts toward Qui Gon's outstretched arm. In one fluid motion, Bixel stands, grabs his daughter's wrist, pointing the blaster at the ceiling, and blocks Jack Pale's attack, knocking the saber off course by the hilt. The lightsaber narrowly misses Qui Gon, singeing her Leku's headdress. Qui Gon's blaster fires into the ceiling, ricocheting into the room. Jack Pale recovers his stance, while Bixel holds Qui Gon's wrist firmly, keeping the blaster out of play. Jack Pale strikes at Bixel now, who dodges low. The saber cuts close, shredding Bixel's shirt across his back. Bixel backhands Jack Pale. The knight stumbles backward, dazed. His lightsaber extinguishes. Bixel wrenches the blaster from his daughter's grip.
What have you done?
Suddenly, the hum of Jack Pale's lightsaber. A deadly swipe comes for Bixel and his daughter. Blocking Qui Gon, Bixel raises both hands against the saber in a desperate force push. Bixel takes the brunt of the blow on his palms, sparks flying. He cries out in pain. Jack Pale recoils, a little stunned by the act. Bixel force pushes both away from each other, sending Jack Pale tumbling on his back and Qui Gon into a soft chair. Bixel holds out his wounded hands, squinting and gritting his teeth. His shirt hangs off his shoulder, smoldering slightly. He calms himself. He hears Jack Pale's blade ignite again. Bixel's eyes pop open. He thrusts a hand out. The jewel between Qui Gon's Leku rips from its chain and flies to him, hovering in midair. From all around the room, antiquities fly to the jewel and converge to become Bixel's lightsaber, floating in front of him. He grabs it. A white blade ignites. Bixel salutes Jack Pale with the saber, then swipes it behind his back.
Jedi, leave now. We mean no harm. I'll handle my daughter.
Jack Pale attacks, swipes once, swipes again. Bixel easily evades his moves, still holding his saber behind his back.
I have sworn to defend the galaxy from Sith.
Jack Pale attacks a third time. Bixel blocks with his saber, bringing them face to face.
Zealot!
Traitor.
Cut to exterior homestead continuous. Jack Pale comes crashing through the front door. He's thrown out into the yard. From the doorway, Bixel emerges. Bixel tears off his tattered shirt. His hardened, lean body is riddled with battle scars.
This is a grievous breach. She must be brought before the council.
If my daughter wishes to become Jedi, she can. Send Master Yoda, Mace, Plo Koon, or even Obi-Wan, but she will not leave with you.
You and your daughter are coming with me, in binders, or you won't be going anywhere at all.
Bixel takes an old-style, obscure fighting stance.
Jedi, I've culled Mandalorians twice your size. Stand down.
Jack Pale strikes. They fight. They make their way from the dwelling and into the tall grass of the surrounding fields. Jack Pale is good. He's an elegant duelist. Bixel fights like a bare-knuckled bruiser, but he's not fighting to kill. He pulls back whenever Jack Pale is forced to the ground. Suddenly, Qui Gon appears, using a harvesting tool to fight alongside her father. She fights viciously and effectively. Her father has clearly taught her to protect herself. But Bixel constantly pushes her away from the fray to protect her, not only from Jack Pale, but from herself as well. Jack Pale finally disarms Qui Gon and destroys her weapon. Bixel lifts his daughter and Force throws her far from the duel. She scrambles to her feet and runs toward the house. The Force throw takes a lot out of Bixel. He begins to tire. The two men fall to the ground, Jack Pale on top. Each keeps the other's lightsaber at bay. Jack Pale lifts a large rock and smashes it into Bixel's saber and hand. Bixel cries out in pain. His lightsaber clatters away. It sparks and then extinguishes. Summoning his strength, Bixel force pushes Jack Pale off him. Bixel staggers up. Again, Jack Pale is at him. Without a saber, Bixel battles like a cage fighter. His whole body becomes a weapon. Despite being better armed, Jack Pale gets the worst, unable to handle the change in fighting techniques. Cut to exterior, the fields. Qui Gon creeps back towards the fight. She picks up her father's lightsaber. She ignites it. It sparks, then extends to a full blade. Then it's out. She shakes it, looks at it, finds a loose piece, replaces it, tries again. Finally, she gets a steady blade. Cut to exterior, elsewhere in the fields. Bixel and Jack Pale have squared off. Suddenly, a blaster bolt strafes Jack Pale. He blocks it with his saber. A second one. Jack Pale blocks and banks it at Bixel. Bixel sidesteps it. The shots keep coming. They look to see the shooter. Qui Gon. She rushes them, holding both the saber and the blaster. Jack Pale and Bixel pivot together, each pointing hands at Qui Gon. She's frozen in her tracks, paralyzed with the Force. Her arm points the blaster at the ground. Bixel and Jack Pale both realize the tactical advantage of the blaster. They turn their palms upward. The blaster flies from Qui Gon's grip and flies toward the combatants. They struggle for control. Thinking quickly, Jack Pale changes tactics. Instead of trying to get the blaster, he slings it at Bixel's head. The blaster smacks its target with enough force to knock Bixel off his feet. Bixel falls to the ground. The blaster skitters onto the grass. Jack Pale moves to Bixel. Suddenly, Qui Gon is on him, lightsaber in hand. Jack Pale and Qui Gon fight. She's sloppy, but good. She fights like her father, but with unbridled anger. During a key moment in her attack, Bixel's damaged lightsaber blinks out. Jack Pale presses this brief advantage. In panic and fear, Qui Gon uses a force push like a bomb. It pushes Jack Pale back, but he's able to remain on his feet. Frantically, she tries to repair the saber. Jack Pale looms above her. He raises his saber.
You're a disgrace, an abomination to the Force.
Jack Pale winds up to deliver a death blow, but his saber hand is grabbed and wrenched behind him. Bixel.
Run!
Qui Gon scrambles away. Bixel delivers 3 quick backhands to the bridge of Jack Pale's nose. Jack Pale stumbles away, but quickly comes back at him. Bixel reaches down and picks up some muddy soil. He slings it at Jack Pale, catching him right in the eye. Jack Pale drops his saber and screams. The soil burns his eyes. He falls to his knees, clawing at them. Bixel grabs Jack Pale by the nape of his robes and drags him toward the lake.
I can't open my eyes.
You'll be fine.
He throws Jack Pale down at the shore.
Here's water. Rinse your eyes. Don't panic. Stay here. I'll be back.
Bixel turns to see his daughter running back to the house. He moves to follow, spots his saber in the ground. It leaps to his hand. He catches it, tries it, no good. As he walks, he uses the Force to take it apart and quickly put it back together. It works. Cut to exterior, water's edge. Jack Pale fumbles towards the lake, fighting panic. He tries to calm himself, using the Force, but his anger is stronger. He cleans his eyes, blinking frantically to regain his sight. His vision begins to return, still blurry. He crawls back out of the water, heaving himself onto the muddy shore. Panting and blinking, Jack Pale feels his way up the embankment. Suddenly, his hand lands on the blaster, lying in the grassy dirt. Cut to exterior, the fields. A blaster bolt whizzes by Bixel's head, then another and another. Bixel turns. Jack Pale fires wildly, blindly. Using the force, his shots become more and more accurate. A bolt grazes Bixel. He stumbles and looks to his daughter. Gane stops running and turns. A bolt finds her and she collapses into the tall grass. In horror, Bixel screams. He throws out his hand toward Jack Pale, snatching the weapon and force tossing it into the lake. He breaks into a run toward his daughter. Exterior, the fields, continuous. Bixel cradles Gane. She's hit, but she's okay. More than anything, it has scared her. She's crying.
I'm sorry. Please, don't be mad.
He kisses her.
I'm not. Never. You should have come to me when you felt the pull of the Force.
I was afraid you'd send me away. Don't be mad. I love you.
I know.
Hola, Jonder Twine!
He's coming back.
Lie still. I'm going to put you out.
What? How?
In a sort of stasis.
I don't want to leave you.
I'll always be with you. I'll be right here. You'll be able to see me.
Bixel slowly runs his hand along her face, soothing her. Then down to her heart. Her breathing slows, then stops. The sound of a beating heart fades. Cut to exterior, the fields. Jack Pale's vision begins to clear. He scans the area and finds his lightsaber.
Bixel Twine!
Bixel stands in the tall grass over Gane's body. Jack Pale approaches them heavily, saber in hand.
Bixel Twine, surrender yourselves.
Silence, you ambitious fool. You've killed her with a blaster. How proud do you think that will make your masters?
A lecture on pride from a man who put his baser instincts above loyalty to the Force.
The Force does not demand loyalty.
I've stopped an onslaught of Sith.
We are not Sith.
Bixel bends down. He gathers his daughter in his arms.
Stand up!
Jack Pale raises his saber and ignites it. Silently, Bixel rises and stares down Jack Pale. Gane lies limp in her father's embrace. Bixel turns his back on Jack Pale and walks to the house. Cut to exterior homestead. Outside the entrance, Bixel lays his daughter on the ground. He stands and turns to Jack Pale.
Leave now, and I won't notify the Jedi Council of your transgressions.
The only transgression I would be guilty of is leaving you alive to corrupt another youngling.
Leave me in peace to mourn the death of my daughter.
The fault lies squarely with you.
Do you not think I know that?
Traitor, fallen one.
The two men begin to stalk each other, circling.
You know nothing, boy.
You chose to indulge fantasies of love. The Jedi Code forbids such things.
The code is a guide. It forbids nothing.
So your selfishness and the dark side have convinced you. Your selfishness was answered in kind.
I won't fight you.
Infuriated, Jack Pale attacks. At the last moment, Bixel unsheathes his lightsaber. The blades cross. They fight. Jack Pale rages with the last of his strength, but flails against the older warrior's years of experience.
What has become of the Jedi, boy? That they've made you a compassionless maniac, a fanatic.
They clash.
Love is the Force.
Sabers slash and sizzle.
It creates all things.
Sparks fly. The duel turns into a rout.
We surrender to it. We don't control it.
The two men lock their blades, crackling and hissing.
The closest I was to the Force ever was seeing my deepest love, holding my newest love in her arms.
Jack Pale strains and groans. He is outmatched.
And the furthest I've been from it was losing her.
A final blow. Bixel brings his saber down with crushing force. Weakly, Jack Pale raises his blade to block it and collapses. Cut to exterior homestead. Point of view from where Gane is laying. Bixel towers over Jack Pale, their sabers crossed and locked together. Bixel faces his daughter, Jack Pale on his knees, his back to her. Exterior homestead continuous. Bixel eases his stance and extinguishes his lightsaber. Jack Pale does the same.
The Force is used to guide and protect. As a Jedi, I never used it to punish or dominate.
He brushes past Jack Pale and moves towards his daughter.
Go, and may the Force be with you. More than it has been.
As Bixel passes him, Jack Pale ignites his lightsaber and runs Bixel through from behind. The blade emerges from Bixel's chest. Bixel's shocked eyes look sadly at his daughter.
Be good.
Bixel falls flat onto his face. Cut 2. Close up, Qui Gane's eye in a dead stare. A tear falls. The eye, without a blink, seems to go from sorrow to anger. Cut 2. Exterior homestead. Jack Pale looks down at Bixel's body. He then checks Qui Gane's vital signs. Satisfied she's dead, he stands. Cut 2. Exterior, water's edge. Jack Pale drags the bodies of Bixel and Qui Gane into the water. Cut 2. Exterior, underwater. A splash on the surface, and Qui Gane's body floats slowly to the bottom of the lake. Cut 2. Exterior, the fields. From his robes, Jack Pale pulls out a communicator.
Council, this is Jack Pale Dorota. I located Master Twine. I approached him for aid, as you requested. However, I quickly discovered that I was correct in my suspicions. Twine was the offending party. The indulgence of his baser instincts did indeed drive him to the dark side.
He drops the communicator to his side. He steels himself.
Unfortunately, I was unable to subdue him and was forced to take his life and the life of his daughter.
He replaces the communicator in his robes. He walks away. Cut 2. Exterior, underwater. Qui Gane's eyes suddenly snap open. A moment of panic. Then she swims to the surface. Cut 2. Exterior, water's edge. Qui Gane breaks the surface and gasps for air. A moment later, she dives back into the water. She surfaces again and drags her father's body to the shore. Swipe. Exterior homestead, night. Qui Gane burns her father's body on a large funeral pyre. Swipe. Interior homestead, night, later. Qui Gane finishes working on something in a dimly lit room. She picks up a new lightsaber. Close-up of Qui Gane's eye. The sound of the lightsaber igniting. Her eye reflects its dark red hue. Blackout.